I rattled off some pretty good 19s there, didn't I, Rodney? With Murray Legg, Jeremiah Castile, and Reggie Ragland.
Yeah, really good ones, really good ones. And when you mention those names, certainly brings back a lot of memories from their playing days. Murray Legg, of course, in on the goal line stand. And, you know, Jeremiah Castile, I think he had 3 interceptions in Coach Bryant's last game. And Reggie Ragland, what a fantastic player. One of the greatest interceptions I think I've ever seen, Gary, was that 2014 Texas A&M game. If you remember when he just jumped up and snagged that ball.
Yeah.
From Kenny Hill. It was an amazing play against Texas A&M.
All defensive players, but Jeremiah's son, Tim, also wore number 19 at Alabama as an offensive player. All right, I want to get to the scrimmage, and I've already said this because we've had some calls, and people heard this and they heard that, and I get it. I mean, information gets out. As I like to say, what I got to see was nothing. I mean, we were in and out as far as the media viewing period very, very quickly. But you do gather information. You do talk to people, and I know you have tons of sources. The popular wisdom this morning is that the offense outplayed the defense, particularly the second-team offense with Mac Jones having a lot of success against the first-team defense. That has a few people rattled. Again, the first-team defense is still coming together. DJ Dale was not out there. Josh McMillan went down early. They're still kind of plugging some things in. So I guess I'm concerned, and I'm not concerned. I mean, normally you want to hear, I guess, early in practice that the defense is dominating. I guess that isn't the case. What all have you been able to gather, and what's your feeling on what occurred on Saturday in that first scrimmage?
Well, based on some things I've heard, I think it's far, far too early to be concerned about the defense. Way too early. I think there's several guys, maybe 4 or 5 in the front 7, either did not participate or were, saw limited action. I don't mean limited physically in terms of injuries, but maybe just kept them out from participating as much. So I'm not really concerned at all right now. I think when I look at this defensive team, I think, first of all, I'll start in the back end. Usually you start up front, but I think they're loaded in the secondary. I think that they're better coordinated this year. I think they're going to be fantastic back there. I think when you move into the to the front, I would say that with DJ Dale, I would say with Terrell Lewis, who I understand has just been a force, and I think if they can keep him healthy, you're going to see a guy that's really gonna. This is his time. This is his time to become what we always thought he could be. Again, got to stay free of injury. Anthony Jennings. Noticed this last week, by far in the best condition, shape he's been in. Looks really, really good physically. LeBron Ray, when he gets back, don't forget, he was out as well. So it makes it difficult when you have that many guys out. And then you had your signal caller, Dylan Moses. He was out. Josh McMillan, the guy that's got more experience than anyone else at the other inside backer spot, got injured on the first play. All of these things together really doesn't add up to something that would make me concerned. I think this defense, Raekwon Davis, I didn't mention him up front. Justin Aboybe's a true freshman that I also think is going to be really good. And I would say this, keep an eye, too, on a guy to add depth, King Makuta, the true freshman outside linebacker. I keep hearing a lot of really, really good things about him.
I referenced this earlier. When you follow a team, you notice everything that happens with your team. And when you have injuries, you just like, oh, my gosh, we're getting hit with all these injuries. Well, they're happening all over the SEC and all over the country. I mean, injuries are just, unfortunately, a part of football. You just don't take note of them as much when it happens to another team. But Tennessee's already had the injury bug. Georgia's dealing with some. It just goes with the territory. It is disappointing, and we'll start with defense because that's an area where, again, Alabama's trying to plug some guys in. That Josh McMillan, who has waited his turn very patiently in his 5th season, was finally in a position possibly to win a starting job there inside next to Dylan Moses, and he goes down early in Saturday's scrimmage with what is being reported as a probable season-ending knee injury. You hate it for the team. You hate it because he has a lot of experience. You hate it more for him because this is a guy who has, been willing to play his role and stay in the background as a backup outside and inside at linebacker for 4 years. I'm really more hurt for him. I think Alabama can overcome that loss at that position, but you're really disappointed for the young man.
Yeah. Again, you do. He's been around. He's waited his opportunity, and now this happens. And, again, like you said, it's a collision sport. Things happen. Injuries happen. It's unfortunate that he had this opportunity after being here. This is his 5th year. And but team-wise, they certainly have to have some of these young guys step up. We've talked about that repeatedly at that position, that inside backer spot with Dylan Moses. It sounds like Markel Benton, the redshirt sophomore from down at Phoenix City Central, had a big scrimmage for him. Hopefully he's ready to take that next step. Ali Caho's another guy that got some opportunities. We know about Jalen Moody as well. And then you've got 2 true freshmen, Shane Lee and Christian Harris, are pushing for playing time at those inside backer spots. So this, while you hate it for McMillan, certainly, you do see that there are some younger players that this will provide an opportunity for them. And just basically, Gary, it's time to step up.
It is. And Pete Golding had said on, Saturday a week ago at Media Day that Josh McMillan wasn't the most talented or athletic linebacker. He was getting by on his experience and his wisdom and maturity. So from a physical standpoint, they can certainly find somebody that they can put in there. But you're right. One of those guys, whether it's Benton, whether it's Lee, whether it's Cahoe, Harris, I mean, you name the guy, somebody's going to have to step up. On the other side of the ball, and like Joshua McMillan, Trey Sanders' career is in front of him. Still, this was a guy who had turned some heads, and Nick Saban had talked about how impressive he had been. You and I had both heard, man, listen, this guy's special. I mean, he's got some Josh Jacobs in him. He can catch it out of the backfield. He can make people miss. He can run with power. And then he goes down late in Friday's practice, and more than likely, even Nick Saban called it out indefinitely, but there's some concern that he might not play this season. And again, you've got other backs. You got 2 guys ahead of him, Najee Harris and Brian Robinson, that are ready to become big time players. But you still hate to lose a football player of this quality, even if he's a freshman.
Well, they need a third back. You've got Brian Robinson, you mentioned him, and Najee Harris. Both those guys expected to be that 1-2 punch that can really be a powerful punch, in my opinion. And then you wanted somebody with a little bit different style, maybe. And I think, again, like I said about the other young players at those positions at the inside linebacker, Trey Sanders was a guy that he, like you said, you used the word special. I think he's got that chance to be a special player. But now you've got Jerome Ford, who's certainly been in the mix and competing hard too. And then also true freshman Keelan Robinson, who brings a different look. We've talked about him for several weeks, even pre-camp. We talked about how impressive things we had heard about him and his elusiveness, his ability to make big plays, explosiveness, and all of those types of things. And he's also a good receiver out of the backfield. But Jerome Ford had a big day on Saturday. I know he had a 70, 75-yard touchdown run. I also know that he finished with, according to observers, what would have been over 100 yards rushing and another touchdown or 2. So, he's a guy that was coming out of high school, maybe not as highly regarded in terms of the publicity that he got, but had tremendous speed, quickness, elusiveness of his own, can catch the ball out of the backfield, played receiver a lot in high school. And Gary, he's a 215-pound kid, so this, once again, these guys get more opportunities to kind of develop themselves. So I think even though you lose Trey Sanders, that's the bad. The good is you've still got a couple of other guys that can step up and become really good players.
At the top of the interview, I mentioned Mac Jones, hearing really good things about him in that scrimmage. Clearly, you've got Tua, but the race for the second quarterback, I think many of us felt like that, Talia would be right in there battling Mac Jones. Of course, Paul Tyson in the mix as well. But do you get a sense maybe that Mac Jones has separated himself some to win that backup quarterback role, or am I overvaluing what I'm hearing? What do you think on the backup quarterback position?
Well, probably right now. I mean, it's just the experience factor. Mac Jones has been in the system, now for a while. This is his third year. He's a redshirt sophomore, so even though they've had some changes in the offensive coordinator, he understands. He has a feel for what's going on, how it's supposed to be done, and he knows probably has a better feel for how to manage a game, how to manage what he's doing, and protect the football, and all of those types of things. I mean, it's experience. It's a big jump from a high school quarterback to this level, obviously. So I just think it's his experience, and that's not saying anything about his ability, because obviously he did really well in the 8A game. He started out August camp, with doing really well throwing the football. Apparently had a good day the other day. Word is he had 2 or 3 touchdown passes. So that's good for him. And I think the other two, Talia and Paul Tyson, just need what most young quarterbacks need, which is time and experience.
Rodney Orr with us here for his weekly visit from TiderInsider.com, Tider Insider TV, about to wrap it up. Another scrimmage coming up Saturday, and then, let's be honest, you start getting into game planning mode then. For these guys that are battling for positions, battling to get in the playing time mix, how important is this scrimmage coming up on Saturday? Because after this, they basically they put a depth chart together and they start getting ready to play.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably this last scrimmage kind of gave them an idea after they reviewed the film of some of the things they want to do, and then see how this week plays out and go into the second scrimmage, maybe narrowing things down a little bit. And so that's something that I think this scrimmage certainly will provide. But like you said, Gary, they've got to start zeroing in on what they want to do this season, what they want to do starting with Duke. So we're upon that time right now. And, you talked about the running backs. I tell you, it won't surprise me today at practice if Chadarius Townsend is back at running back.
Nice thought, Rodney. Yeah.
Yeah, he's keep an eye on that, because I think that they want to have probably 5 guys at that position. He was at wide receiver, moved there in the spring to running back, and then back to wide receiver. I won't be surprised if and he's really quick. We saw him in A-Day game. He provides a little bit of a different look, so don't be surprised if he's back there.
All right, great stuff. As always, from Rodney, tell the listeners how they can get signed up if they aren't already on TiderInsider.com.
TiderInsider.com. It's only $48 a year. You can get access with your credit card, or if you prefer, there's an address there to send a check. And that gives you all the premium information. Should be a big week this week in that regard. And also the forums where, just plenty of discussion, Gary. I mean, it's ongoing about this scrimmage, as well as, some of the aspects of the team that we've discussed.
And, of course, catch Rodney with me tomorrow night, 6:30, WVUA 23, Tider Insider TV. Appreciate it, Rodney.
Okay, buddy. Look forward to it. Take care.